Imagine this for a moment. You're standing in front of someone, having a simple conversation, but the way you speak has the power to completely change how that person feels about themselves long after the moment is gone. Not because of magic, not because of manipulation, but because of something deeply human that we often overlook in daily life, the emotional impact of our words.
Most people don't realize how powerful everyday communication really is.
A few words, spoken with attention and sincerity, can either lift someone's mental state or quietly add to their emotional burden. And in a world where stress, anxiety, and emotional fatigue are becoming more common, the way we connect with others matters more than ever. Let's slow down for a moment and look at something important. Every human being carries invisible emotional weight: work pressure, personal struggles, self-doubt, and expectations from society build up quietly inside the mind. On the surface, people may look fine, even confident, but internally, many are trying their best just to stay balanced. This is where thoughtful communication becomes not just nice, but meaningful for emotional well-being. When someone receives genuine, thoughtful words that recognize their inequalities, something subtle but powerful happens in the brain. It creates a sense of being seen and understood. Psychologists often explain that feeling emotionally acknowledged can reduce stress responses and increase feelings of safety and connection. It's not about flattery or exaggeration, it's about presence, attention, and sincerity. But here's the problem. Most communication today is rushed, automatic, and surface level. People often rely on repetitive phrases that don't carry emotional depth. Over time, this kind of shallow interaction doesn't nourish the mind. It leaves conversations feeling empty, even when they are friendly on the surface. And when emotional needs go unnoticed for too long, it can contribute to feelings of loneliness, even in social environments. Now imagine a different kind of interaction. Instead of focusing only on appearance or obvious traits, you begin to notice emotional strength, calmness under pressure, or the effort someone puts into their daily life. When those deeper qualities are acknowledged, it sends a powerful message. I see more than just the surface. I see your experience, your effort, and your inner world. This kind of communication has a calming effect. It reduces emotional tension because it validates something real inside the person. For example, when someone is going through a stressful period and they feel that their resilience is recognized, it can help them feel less alone in their struggle. Emotional validation is a key part of mental well-being, and yet it is often missing in everyday life. There is also something important happening on the psychological level. When a person feels truly seen, the mind becomes less defensive. Instead of questioning their worth or overthinking how they are perceived, they feel a sense of ease. This is closely connected to emotional safety, which is essential for healthy relationships, whether personal, family-based, or social. But emotional communication is not only about others. It also reflects the quality of our own awareness. The way we observe people reveals how present and mindful we are. When we slow down enough to notice effort, growth, or emotional strength in others, we are also training our own mind to become more attentive and grounded. At the same time, it is important to understand that words should never be used to control emotions or create dependency. Healthy communication is not about making someone overly attached or influenced. It is about encouraging emotional balance, respect, and genuine human connection. When used correctly, supportive words can uplift without pressure and encourage without expectation. Think of it like emotional nutrition. Just as the body needs balanced food to stay healthy, the mind needs balanced communication to stay stable. Too little emotional acknowledgement can leave a person feeling unseen. But genuine, thoughtful interaction at the right time can help restore emotional balance and strengthen mental resilience. As we continue, we will explore how different types of communication can affect emotional well-being more deeply, and how timing, awareness, and sincerity all play a role in creating healthier and more meaningful human connections. Now, let's continue deeper into this idea of emotional communication and how timing, awareness, and intention can completely change the way our words affect another person's mental state. When we talk about meaningful interaction, one of the most important things to understand is timing. Even the most supportive or thoughtful words can lose their impact if they are said at the wrong moment. Human emotions are not static. They shift depending on stress levels, environment, fatigue, and personal experiences. So the same sentence can feel comforting in one moment and completely unnoticed in another. For example, when someone is overwhelmed, their mind is already full. In that state, they may not fully absorb what is being said, even if it is positive or encouraging. But when the same person is calmer, more open, and emotionally available, a few sincere words can deeply influence how they see themselves. This is why emotional awareness is just as important as the words themselves. Another key element is emotional observation. Many people listen to reply, not to understand. They focus on what they want to say next instead of truly noticing what the other person is feeling. But when you slow down and pay attention, you begin to pick up subtle emotional signals. Changes in tone, pauses in speech, or even body language can tell you more than words alone ever could. This kind of awareness helps you respond in a more supportive way. Instead of giving generic responses, you begin to respond to the actual emotional state of the person. And this is where communication becomes healing rather than just conversational. When someone feels accurately understood, it reduces internal pressure. It creates emotional relief because they no longer feel like they have to explain themselves repeatedly. There is also an important psychological effect that happens when a person feels emotionally recognized in a specific and sincere way. It builds what experts call emotional validation memory. This means the brain remembers moments where it felt understood and safe, and those memories become reference points during stressful times. In simple terms, one meaningful interaction can have a long-lasting calming influence on someone's mindset, but we must also be careful. Emotional communication should never be about creating dependency or influence for personal gain. Healthy interaction is based on balance, not control. The goal is not to make someone emotionally reliant on your words, but to contribute positively to their emotional well-being while respecting their independence. Another important aspect is authenticity. The mind can detect insincerity more easily than we think. When words are exaggerated or not aligned with genuine observation, they lose emotional weight. But when you speak from real attention and honest perception, even simple sentences can feel powerful. Authenticity is what gives emotional communication its strength. It's also worth understanding how emotional resilience works in people. Some individuals appear strong not because they feel no stress, but because they have learned how to manage it internally. When you acknowledge that quiet strength in a respectful way, it can reinforce their sense of capability. It doesn't change who they are, but it helps them feel supported in their journey. On a deeper level, this kind of interaction also improves your own emotional intelligence. The more you practice noticing people's emotional states, the more sensitive and grounded you become in your own thinking. You start reacting less impulsively and responding more thoughtfully. This reduces misunderstandings and helps build healthier relationships in every area of life. And perhaps one of the most important things to remember is this: people rarely forget how you made them feel. Words may fade, but emotional impressions stay. A calm, supportive, and sincere interaction can stay in someone's memory far longer than expected, especially during moments when they need emotional strength. As we move forward into the final part, we will bring all of these ideas together and explore how consistent emotional awareness and mindful communication can shape stronger, healthier, and more meaningful human connections in everyday life. In this final part, let's bring everything together and understand how consistent, mindful communication can shape not only how others feel around us, but also how we grow as individuals emotionally and mentally over time. When emotional awareness becomes a habit rather than an occasional effort, something subtle begins to change in your relationships. Conversations stop feeling mechanical and start becoming more present, more grounded, and more human. You begin to notice that people respond differently, not because you are saying dramatically different things, but because you are saying things with more attention and emotional clarity. This consistency matters more than intensity. One powerful conversation can leave an impression, but it is steady, respectful communication over time that builds trust. Trust is not created in big moments alone. It is built in small, repeated interactions where the other person feels safe, understood, and emotionally respected. Another important point is emotional balance. While it is valuable to be thoughtful and aware of others' feelings, it is equally important not to lose yourself in the process. Healthy communication always respects boundaries. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions completely. Instead, your role is to contribute positively while maintaining your own emotional stability. When this balance is maintained, communication becomes healthier for both sides. You are not overextending yourself emotionally, and the other person is not becoming dependent on external validation. Instead, both individuals remain emotionally independent while still feeling connected and understood. Over time, this approach also changes how you perceive people. You begin to see beyond surface reactions and understand that everyone is carrying something internally. Some people are dealing with stress, some with uncertainty, and others with silent pressure they do not openly express. This awareness naturally increases patience, empathy, and emotional maturity. And as your emotional understanding grows, your responses become more thoughtful. You stop reacting impulsively to everything and start choosing your words with intention. This does not mean overthinking every sentence. It means becoming more present in the moment and allowing your response to reflect awareness rather than habit. Interestingly, this also reduces unnecessary conflict. Many misunderstandings happen not because people have bad intentions, but because emotions are not properly recognized or acknowledged in conversation. When someone feels unheard, even a small discussion can turn into tension. But when there is calm acknowledgement and respectful communication, many conflicts naturally dissolve before escalating. From a psychological perspective, this type of communication supports emotional regulation. When people feel understood, their nervous system tends to calm down. Stress responses decrease, and the mind becomes more open to rational thinking. This is why supportive and grounded communication is often used in counseling and mental health support environments. It helps restore emotional balance. However, it is important to remember that words alone are not a solution to deeper emotional or psychological issues. If someone is dealing with ongoing anxiety, depression, or trauma, professional help is always necessary. Thoughtful communication can support emotional well-being, but it should never replace proper care when it is needed. At the core of everything we discussed is a simple truth. Human beings are deeply influenced by how they are emotionally treated in conversation. Not by grand speeches, not by perfection, but by small moments of genuine understanding. When you consistently communicate with awareness, respect, and sincerity, you are not just improving conversations, you are contributing to emotional safety in your relationships. You are helping create an environment where people feel more at ease being themselves. And in return, you also grow. You become more patient, more emotionally stable, and more grounded in your interactions. You start to understand that real connection is not about impressing others, but about making space for honest human experience. That is the real power of mindful communication.